Today, I want to share a powerful story from one of our listeners, AJ from Florida. AJ reached out to me recently to tell me about his experience with psilocybin, and I really think his journey is going to resonate with so many of you. So, first, AJ expresses gratitude for all the work we've been doing here at Microdose U, educating and helping people explore the benefits of plant medicine. AJ, I want to thank you so much for trusting me with your story and for following me and also allowing me to share it with my community. I'm Dr. Dave. Welcome to Microdose U.
Enter the world of magic mushrooms with Microdose U.
Hey there. Thanks so much for being back with me. I appreciate you. I'm going to get right into AJ's story. Before I do, just real quickly, you know what I'm going to say if you've been with me for a while, but if you're brand new, and we owe it to the new people to let them know that every episode show notes here are very important. There are a lot of really important links and resources you can go to, all buried in the show notes of each and every episode, and also the website, my brand new website, microdoseu.com, microdose with the letter U, microdoseu.com, all kinds of things there, especially if you want to see about working one-on-one, one-to-one personally. And, we can do that, or else everything else I do is totally free. But again, check out Microdose U, brand new website. I don't know how much longer I have to say brand new website, even though it is still pretty darn relatively new. But I think after a certain amount of time, I'll just say website and I won't say brand new website. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, either way, thanks so much for being with me. I really do appreciate you. So AJ's story starts about 4 years ago after going through a divorce. Like many of us who experience major life transitions, AJ found himself feeling unsettled. His child had grown into adulthood, and raising his family had been the core focus of his life alongside building his career. Now, suddenly, with these chapters closing, he found himself asking, what's next? So AJ went through this phase where, like so many of us, he was searching for the next chapter. What would his life look like now? What personal changes would he want to make? AJ was slowly making progress, trying to find his way, but even with talk therapy, something was still missing. It just wasn't really the breakthrough that he was helping for. And I'm going to just, before I continue with AJ's story, I'm going to inject a little bit of my personal history because I felt the same way, AJ, and I was going through some really, really tough times. And I felt talk therapy. I mean, I did talk therapy, but I felt talk therapy was not really all that effective for really getting rid of that crazy feeling of anxiety and depression. Yeah, talk therapy, you talk, but I don't know. I felt it was super slow, and I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one that felt that way. So after as the talk therapy was going on, fast forward to about a year ago, AJ decided to try psilocybin. And wow, yeah, those first few months were really powerful for him. He described having several major breakthroughs early on. He started thinking differently, understanding more about himself, and most importantly, his anxiety levels dropped and his mood significantly improved. He said he felt it was like this light switch had been flipped. Things were moving in the right direction, and psilocybin was helping guide him there. But then, like with so many journeys, there was a roadblock. After a few months of progress, AJ hit a plateau. He said it felt like he kept reaching the ceiling, but he couldn't break through, and he didn't understand why. It was almost like the psilocybin was knocking on the door, but AJ wasn't really ready to open it. And this went on for months. And it can be so frustrating when you feel like you've stalled, especially after making such great strides in the beginning. Eventually, AJ had another breakthrough, one that hit him really deep. He realized that the reason he had been stuck was that on a subconscious level, he didn't feel worthy of being in a relationship. He actually didn't believe he was worthy of being loved. And that's when AJ wrote to me again. And I think this edition is really important to share. He said, I'm a nice guy, decent looking, and I do pretty well for myself, but none of that mattered because of how I felt subconsciously. It's like I had these shackles on, but didn't even realize it. Psilocybin has helped my brain have better clarity about my life experiences and not be a prisoner to them. He described it as feeling like a 1,000-pound weight had been lifted off of his shoulders. Sometimes we carry beliefs about ourselves, and I know I'm pretty experienced with that, and I can share more about that, especially from my old days, my previous marriage, my first marriage. I mean, I felt I was, how can I say this? I was in a relationship where I had shackles on, and I think I was being controlled, and I wasn't really able to be my true self. And maybe looking back, I'll blame myself. I'm not blaming anybody else. I blame myself because I didn't have the confidence in myself to be the person that I really wanted to be. So since I didn't have the confidence in myself, I just let others control me, and I went in directions that I didn't necessarily want to go in. But again, when you don't have that confidence, and it's so easy to let others control you and point you in the directions that are not really best for you, but you get pointed in those directions, and oftentimes you wind up going in those directions because you just don't know what else to do. Now, AJ admits that maybe with enough time, he could have reached this realization through therapy, talk therapy, that is. And maybe, but again, I'm not a big fan. I'm not against it, but I don't think it does a lot. That's totally my opinion. As a matter of fact, I think I shared this with you a long time ago, like several months into my microdosing journey. I personally made some notes in my journal, and I came up with some thoughts about my life, and I wrote them in my journal. I remember bringing them into my therapist because I was still doing therapy. I'm not doing it anymore. I don't do therapy anymore at all. But I brought them in, and I read them to my therapist. I think there were 3 or 4 bullet points that I discovered about myself. And he knew I was microdosing. I was very honest with him, and he said to me, Dave, what you've come up with, what you've discovered about yourself would have taken between 10 and 20 years of talk therapy to come up with these realizations about your life and about yourself. And right then and there, I knew that, wow, I'm sorry, I don't have 10 or 20 years to do it the slow way. And I was really glad I was on the microdosing journey, because that's the only way, in my mind, that's the only way to get there faster. And, we don't have years and years to get better. We want to do it quicker. I'm not saying healing takes overnight, but I certainly believe that it does not take as long as 10 to 20 years. There's no way. I'm sorry. What's important is that psilocybin guided AJ to better mental health and self-awareness. And that's the real power of this medicine. It helps us see things about ourselves that we might have otherwise kept hidden. And I was in the same boat. I kept things about myself hidden for decades. And like I've said before, you can try to sweep these things under the rug. We're pretty good at doing things like that, but they're going to take up residency somewhere in your cells. They're going to be there. You can sweep them under the rug all you want, but they're going to be there. They're not going to go away unless you take the bull by the horn and take care of the problem. Because if you just try to sweep them under the rug and ignore them, I promise you, as was evidenced in my life, they will get worse and worse and worse until you're hit with something really hard and really bad. So I can really identify with AJ's story. So much of it, because I went through a divorce, and he said he did too. And then that's when things started getting weird. Well, things were, okay, let's face it, things were weird before the divorce, at least for me. They were getting weird and weirder and weirder. And if I hadn't gone through the divorce, I don't know where I would be now. I don't know where my life would be. I can assure you one thing: it would not be pretty. It would not be good. I know with 100% certainty my life would not be good had I not gone through the divorce. Now, when you go through a divorce, a lot of it's unknown. It's very costly. I ended up losing a lot of money. looking back, I would not have done it any other way now. It took guts, it took perseverance, because you don't know what's on the other side. And I talk to people now. I'm working with people as we speak. And some are they're afraid of the other side. They're afraid of the unknown. Some are afraid of retiring because they don't know what's going to be on the other side. And even though what's going on now is not necessarily great, the unknown, like, what am I going to do when I retire? I'm afraid my life might get worse because I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, it will get better. I can promise you, but the only way you can get better is if you take the steps that needed to get there. Because I know how to guide people, but you got to take the steps to get there. And like I did with my own life, and I really didn't have anybody guiding me except for myself, because my talk therapist back then wasn't really guiding me well, but I knew that I had to go through a divorce that would not be fun and would be very costly in order to get my life to where I wanted it to be. I knew I had to do that. And even though I was afraid, I still had to do it, and I did it. So it's not always easy. I never, ever want to say, I never want to promise anybody that it's easy. Oh, just do this. It'll be simple. Don't worry. It'll be simple. No, you've never heard me say that. Sometimes it's difficult, but that doesn't mean we don't have to do them. Because the other side of the coin is if we don't do them, it's going to be worse and more difficult. I can promise you that. So, AJ, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us. And it's stories like these that really highlight how transformative this psilocybin journey can be, or this life-changing journey can be. And for you, if you're listening now, this goes to you. If you are struggling to break through your own barriers, whether it's anxiety, depression, or even some type of long buried beliefs about yourself, which I had, know that there are paths forward. Sometimes these paths take time to reveal themselves, but with patience and the right tools, you can get there. I'm positive. It worked for me. I'm no different than you. I've said this before. I'm not blessed with any type of superpowers in any way. I'm a regular guy, but I did know that I had to do certain things to make my life better. And I would do those same things today if I had to. And I don't buy the BS that, oh, at this point in my life, I can't change, or I'm too old. No, I would not. I don't believe that for a second. I believe as still as we're living and breathing, we are never too old to make a change. Never too old. Because if we don't make the change, then what? We're stuck in a shitty situation for the rest of our lives. And suppose you live 10 more years or 20 more years or 30 more years. Suppose you even live 5 more years. I don't know how old you are listening right now, but suppose you think you're really old, but you got 5 good more years in you. You want to live them in a horrible way? I didn't think so. So thanks again, AJ, for letting me share your journey with our listeners. And to you, if this resonates with you, or if you have a story you'd like to share with me and the rest of the world, please feel free to reach out to me. You know how to get me. My email address is always in the show notes, as well as you can reach me from the website. There's a little contact form. You can reach me. And I read everything. You can get me. There's no question about it. Because you know why? We are all on this journey together. Some of us might be a little bit ahead of each other on the timeline, but we're all the same. We're all on this journey. None of us want to hurt anymore. I don't think any of us do. Some of us choose to keep hurting because you don't want to take the steps to move forward. And I don't want to minimize that because, like I said, sometimes they're not easy. But in my mind, what are the choices? So I really do hope this helped. Until next time, I'm Dr. Dave. It's Microdose U. I've got a brand new episode that comes out every Wednesday and Friday. A lot of times these days on Mondays also, I'm doing like mushrooms in the news or some type of microdose news that's going on that is really helpful. But if I don't do one on Monday, always Wednesday and Friday, unless for some reason there's a rare technical issue, which I experienced a little bit of a rare issue a couple days ago, but I think finally got it fixed, so everything's up and running. But it's tough out there. Sometimes it is tough out there, but I get it done, and I love you, and I will absolutely see you or listen or hear me. If you're watching video, I'll see you, but if you're listening, you'll hear me on the next episode of Microdose U. Yeah, I have fun doing this.